I am fired up this morning, man.
Why are you so fired up? What happened?
I heard a little pregame speech, heard a little pep talk.
You did?
The show. Yeah.
From who? Lee?
A national champion, that's who.
Oh,
wow.
You mean the audio that's making its way around the sports radio and television world? You want to take a listen to Kirby Smart? And now we know why Georgia sandblasted TCU at SoFi a couple of nights ago. Here was the Georgia head coach.
Your ass is prepared for this for 365 days. I think about the in that locker room. Think about getting our opportunity. All the you went through this week to get ready for this game, now is when you pay the price. You go out there with energy, enthusiasm. Hey, guys, ain't nobody in this room should be cautious. Ain't nobody in this room should be nervous about Go out here and your ass up. Don't think about scoreboard. Don't think about You think about knocking the out of them. Did you hear what Fox said on Monday? When I sat in that meeting, I wanted to go play right then. Tore your up out here. 2 years ago, up. Pride and joy tells me you these guys up. You go play the right way. You play the right way. You knock their ass off. You stay off the ground. You tackle the man with the ball. It's easy. Look at the right. Punish their ass on offense and kick their ass on special teams, guys. It's about who the we are. I believe in you. Let's go.
That's football, baby. I mean, look, the reality is, in our society today, there are going to be some people who are offended by that. And look, I understand there's some profanity in it. That comes with the sports. That comes with sports in general. You know? Like,
did you say some profanity?
Well, here's what I'll say is I played for enough coaches who used profanity in pregame speeches that, I would categorize that one in my book for coaches that I've played for as some. That's not that profane laced from what I've heard. So I'll put it this way. There'll be some people who are offended by that because of what he said and how he said it and everything else. And here's what I'll just say to you is you'll never understand. You'll never get it. Like, there is a certain switch you have to turn on in order to go play the game of football at that level and as well as they do. And we can talk about the merits of a pregame speech and whether it matters anyway. You know, I've heard some great pregame speeches, and you come out the first quarter, get your ass kicked. But the reality is that it's fun to be a part of that. It's fun to hear that. It's fun to be around your teammates, all the sacrifices and effort you put into the game. And right before you have a chance to go win another national championship, have your coach getting you fired up for it and talking about the physicality of football, which is ultimately when you go back and watch that tape, you know, I don't care if you look at the stats, the scoreboard, what a lot of people don't understand is the physicality that came with that ass whooping that TCU took. And that's exactly what Georgia did. So, you know, hey, kudos to Kirby Smart. I mean, they deserve it. They're the kings right now of college football.
It's called culture. You know, that idea of them being underdogs and that being what they wrote as their motivation during the course of this season, it all starts with a belief. You know, and Kirby Smart had them believing that nobody thought that they could repeat being national champions. Nobody thought that they would go undefeated. They'd be a 5-loss team. And reality is what perception is. I don't know what 5 teams Georgia would have lost to, but he convinced them that they were going to be a 5-loss team.
I mean, he's a hell of a salesman.
Well, that's
can I ask you this, LaVar? What the hell would you have said if you thought, like, if he was trying to spew that to you? Would you buy into that?
Again, if I'm in the culture of it, from the outside looking in, hell no. From the inside looking out, you know how that goes, Q.
Well, I'm saying,
if I believe in the
coach, I got you. Yeah, coach, I hear you.
If you believe in that coach, whether you thought that he was accurate or not, you still feel like I need to defend that. Like, coach really feel like 5 teams going to beat our ass. Like, dang, coach really feels that way. So you know what? Like, it takes those leaders on the team and those guys that buy in to be like, man, we ain't letting that happen. We're not only not going to lose 5 games, we're not going to lose a game. And then now it starts to kind of take shape. It starts to take hold. And that's the, you know, to me, that's the tone of what Kirby Smart's pregame speech was. that's something that was, if you're a coach and the guys love you, you're one of those guys that continues for an entire, from the time they started, from the last national championship to their winter workouts, to spring ball, to the start of football season, to first game, to that ending point. Kirby Smart was feeding them all them bleeps, explicitives, and all those real, words that got them to pull together. And that, to me, that's what separates the coaches that are able to get guys to play out of their minds and beyond themselves, and the ones that just have guys that, they're really, really great athletes and can play football, but when the going gets tough, adversity tends to maybe swallow them up. It just didn't seem like the moment was too big for Georgia, and I think that's because the culture Kirby Smart has been able to build is something that harbors the true belief in yourself, and obviously by his language, being who you want to be. Because Kirby Smart was being who he wanted to be in that moment. I think it's all about those guys being who they want to be and being good enough to be the best when they're who they want to be.
This might be a little controversial, but I'm looking through and I can't see where they would have lost 5 games. I don't know what it is. I'm looking through it. I'm
Why
trying
are we taking that seriously? Why are we even entertaining that?
Look,
Come on.
They were dominant, man. It was just a phenomenal season. There were 2 games that were within 1 score. Other than that, everything else was a convincing win. It was the game against Missouri and then the game against Ohio State, which was fantastic. But other than that, everything else was convincing. And maybe there were more of these. Here's my question. How did this get out? How did this audio of this pregame speech get out? Was somebody recording on their phone and decided we're going to send it out? If that's the case, wouldn't that piss Kirby Smart off? Unless he's okay with this getting out because he feels like this might be a little bit of a recruiting tool as well also. Because this paints him out.
We live in a day and age where you cannot assume that something won't get out. So if I'm Kirby Smart, if I'm any coach at any major college, if I'm any coach at any college, you know what? There are cameras around. There were probably cameras around, Jonas. People document these things. So his voice was being recorded, and whether it got released the way it did or it got released through a game day show, that highlights the team, whatever it may be, he knows what he's got going on. So I don't think that he would be upset that audio got out there. I mean, that's who he is. That's who he is.
And it also makes him look good, because he looks like he's got the command of the team, and they went out and then just stomped TCU out the way they did. So not a bad look for him.
To us, yeah. Again, there's going to be people or parents who are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he talked to my son like that. I can't believe he's saying those things." It's hard to relate, and it's hard to have the perspective unless you've played football. And I think the game of football is one where physicality just isn't something that is really in our daily life quite as much. You're starting to see more of a division between kind of the people who look for it, the people who want to get into MMA or boxing and football and true collision sports. I think as Dr. Chow talks about, he says it's not a contact sport. He says basketball is a contact sport. He's like football is a collision sport. And he's right. But there's people who've played it, who understand it, who want that. There's people who don't. And if you don't, then you don't understand the mental frame of mind you need to be in to go play that. And it's obviously one thing if you're LaVar and you're the hammer. And I'll be honest with you, as a quarterback, it's the same thing, though, but you're usually the nail. There's a mentality you have to have, even as the quarterback, in understanding, you're going to get hit. You were going to get hit. I'll never forget, one of the first times my parents were like, "Do you want to play baseball?" And I was young, and it was, we had played t-ball and coaches pitched and stuff, and I was like, "I don't know. There's going to be kids pitching? They're like, yeah. They're like, what if it hits me? And they're like, well, it could hit you. And I was like, I don't think I want to play. And my dad looked at me and he goes, look, let's go outside. And so we went outside and he took 4 baseballs. And he goes, go grab your bat. Okay. So I stood there. And he hit me with 4 baseballs. and literally, the point is, and he kind of threw the first one kind of easy, and I kind of like got out of the way. And he's like, I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I want to show you what it feels like. I said, I don't think I want to do this. He goes, just listen. And so the next one he throws is kind of soft, hits me. I was like, that's not so bad. He goes, that's right. He goes, that's not so bad. And the next one he threw a little harder. I go, yeah, that's not bad. And the next one was a little harder. And he goes, look. He goes, you're going to get hit by a baseball. That's okay. He goes, but at some point in time, too, he goes, you're going to hit a home run, and it's the greatest feeling you're ever going to have. And he was right. So I feel like there's too many times that, like, we try to coddle people for the realities of life and of sport. And that's just not the case.
That was a Kirby Smart. That was a Kirby Smart moment.
By the way, I love the idea of Chopper going high and tight on his own son.
Oh, yeah. He was the best, man. He was the best.
It's great.
Hey, by the way, to your point, Q, a lot of high school coaches are getting accused of bullying. A lot of high school like I've even seen where there was like basically like an investigation, like a school board investigation and trial hearing for what would be considered bullying. And it's amazing to me how hard coaching and so a parent now will interpret the way you scream at their child as you're bullying them. You're screaming at them. You're not screaming to them. You're not screaming to urge them on. You're not screaming to encourage them or to educate them. You're just screaming at them. And that's like the society that we live in now, is that you can't, what Kirby Smart did, you have to be at the college level or the pro level to be able to talk to kids that way anymore. You can't do it any other place. Like, it's very difficult to be able to coach hard or to create hard conversations with kids at the high school level.
You know what? I hate that. I don't want to get on a soapbox here for a second, but this is why I hate that. We're trying to protect kids from failing. Even in our society, we're almost trying to protect people from failing. It's the worst lesson. It's the worst thing you can do. If you don't let people fail, then whenever things get tough in the future, guess what? They're going to quit. They're not going to be able to fight through. They're not going to be able to push through. It's the worst lesson you can give someone. It's getting tough. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Take it with you. Go ahead. Go on home. Yeah, it's the worst thing you can do. And I feel like at like youngest ages now, we're starting to coddle kids, and we don't realize that it's okay to fail. Like at some point in time, you have to realize failure are learning experiences, and when you experience those failures, it's on you to figure out, okay, what can I do to change it, make it better, or improve so it doesn't happen again. I mean, people out there right now are listening. They probably run a small business. What do you think happens when they fail? There's a chance of going bankrupt. It's their own personal wealth. It impacts them. It impacts their family. It impacts the people they've hired and their jobs. I mean, there's a lot on the line. So I think it's a terrible, terrible lesson. And there's obviously, coaches at a lot of places, by and large, do an amazing job. And in order to get someone to change their habits and change who they are, there has to be a transformation. That transformation does not come easy. Change doesn't always come easy. So I hate hearing that stuff. I really do. I feel bad for a lot of coaches who have to deal with that sort of BS.
There's a quote that's out there that they use in fighting a lot. I think it might have been Nelson Mandela was the first one to use it, but he said, you either win or you learn. There is no losing. So you're successful or you're not, but you learn something from it. So good for Kirby Smart, man. Let it fly.
Yeah, I think their players obviously understand the mind frame they need to be in. Look, for TCU, they got their butts kicked. That was the worst beating I think we've ever seen. Have we seen one that's worse than that?
No, that was bad. Yeah.
And the reality is that will stick with them forever. Max Duggan, who had a phenomenal year, Sonny Dykes in his first year gets to a national championship, and as great of a season as it was, I mean, it's kind of weird, too, to think they don't have any championships to go with it. They didn't win Big 12, and then they get to the national championship. They don't win that.
That's true, huh?
It's kind of crazy to think the success they had, yet they don't have no championship. And so the reality is, as good of a season as it was, they will never forget this the rest of their lives.
Like, hey, man, we had a great season back in the day. Sure you did. Yeah. No, I'm serious. Yeah, where's your Big 12 title? Where's your national championship? But, hey, they beat Michigan, so there's that. And who knows? Maybe they chased Jim Harbaugh from the college ranks. We'll see.